Sup nerds, I'm Ronin, and we're back with another Ronin review. It's been a little while, but we're coming back with something that a lot of you might enjoy. Old fans, new fans, people that aren't fans, this review is for you. But I have one question before we even get started. That question is, what was your favorite thing about gaming on the Super Nintendo or the Genesis like back in the 90s? Was it having a rad third-party controller that was hooked up to your console that gave you an awesome competitive advantage over your friends? They came with a ton of function switches and turbo buttons and all kinds of stuff like that? Yeah, well, same here. Now that Nintendo is back in the game and kind of slaying stuff with the Nintendo Switch being bigger than ever, they've also been slaying the game with the NES Mini Classic, which is hot to trot. You can't even find that one thing. And then also with the SNES Mini Classic. So with those things combined, it's time to relive those nostalgic memories, and Hori is here to help you do that with the wireless fighting commander for the SNES Classic Mini. So we're going to take a look at this bad boy and kind of see how it stands up. Now, if you recall, maybe you don't, but quite some time ago we reviewed the classic 8-bit-do fight stick for the Nintendo Switch that had some pretty unfavorable results with a lot of lag time and stuff like that. And that was a wireless stick. So we're going to see how Hori stands up, because Hori's got a pretty big name in the fighting community. So let's see how this stands up on the Super Nintendo Classic with the Hori Fighting Commander wireless controller. 6 buttons. So the first thing we're going to start with is the packaging, because this right out of the case is incredibly nostalgic looking. Now, this is officially licensed by Nintendo, so it has the classic branding on the top. It's got the old school classic SNES box style on the front that has a picture of the controller on the front and just opens up, and inside you have your controller and the wireless adapter that makes the controller work. So if you saw this, if you went to the store and you saw this bad boy just sitting in the shelf, so you went to GameStop or something and saw this on there, this would catch your attention immediately, because this, especially if you have that nostalgic feeling going on. I ordered this off Amazon. I haven't seen it yet in stores anywhere, but if I had, it would have been a must-have just based on the case and the nostalgic feeling of the controller alone. It's super sweet, but we don't buy things for the casing. We don't give a damn about the casing, right? Who cares about that? We care about what's in the box. And what's in the box is something that's pretty slick. So in the box we have the controller, which is in the shape of the regular SNES classic controller. Of course, it's wireless with the dongle here that attaches in there. The difference here between that is the controller is a 6-button layout that is more primarily aimed towards the fighting game community and fighting game fans, because we all know that the Super Nintendo Mini Classic has Street Fighter II loaded onto it. So ideally, this is going to be the controller for that game. So one light punch, medium punch, heavy punch, light kick, medium kick, heavy kick. It's just the preferred way to play, and it kind of lines up with all the rest of the fighting commanders that Hori has put out for other systems. Of course, you still do have the bumpers if you, for some reason, prefer to play that way. But the unique thing about this controller is it does have turbo functionality, calling back to the old school third-party controllers for each button, as well as a Slo-Mo toggle that you can use for the system. So what we're going to do now is we're going to plug this bad boy in and see exactly how it plays and really give it a thorough play test and break it down. So out of the box, you're only going to really need a couple different things to get set up. It does require 2 AA batteries in the unit itself, which does give it a nice girthy weight, which I appreciate. And then of course it has its wireless receiver that goes right into the controller port of the SNES Mini Classic. And from there, to get started with it, that'll start blinking. You hold down start for 3 seconds, and then it syncs automatically, and boom, you're ready to rock. It's super easy to get going. Much more easier than the 8-bit-do fight stick. That was a pain in the ass. So 8-bit-do 0, Hori 1, so to speak. So the first thing that I want to talk about that everyone is going to be wondering, especially for you that are competitive fighters that are going to be playing Street Fighter possibly casually on your SNES Mini, is how is the delay? How is the lag, considering it is a wireless product? Well, Hori, I feel like in our rudimentary tests, has really outdone themselves, because compared to the stock controller that comes with the SNES Mini Classic, there is no delay, discernible delay whatsoever between that controller that is wired and this one that is wireless. It is very impressive. So you press a button and the commands come out just like they do on the wired version of the controller for all buttons. Now, we tested the length of how far we could go away from the machine, and we got a good maybe 10, 15 feet away before the red dot started blinking, telling us that we were out of range. So there is quite a bit of wiggle room on how far the wireless reaches to this, and it is very impressive. Now, in playing it, of course, just like the old versions of yore, you do get a competitive advantage when using the turbo functions. So, of course, you have two different sides of turbo. You can turn it up one notch, and as long as you're holding the button, you get turbo functionality. If you're uninitiated with what that means, let's say you're playing Chun-Li, you hold down the kick button and she automatically does her lightning kicks. It's as if you're pressing down the button and mashing it at rapid speed. So you just get that from holding down the button. If you flick it up to the second switch, you then just get that functionality without even having to press the button. So the competitive advantage is ridiculous. If you're playing against friends on the couch, they're going to hate you because you're beating the shit out of them with skills that you do not actually possess in real life. It's a thing. It also has the Slo-Mo function, which has two different settings. Effectively what this is doing, is just basically pressing pause over and over again, giving you the slow-mo effect, just like it used to do in the old days. Two different varying speeds on that. Setting 1 goes a little bit slower, and then setting 2 will go a little bit faster. So that does have its uses. I guess if you're playing against the computer or something, you wouldn't want to do that playing in a setting unless you're trying to annoy your friends or something, which is totally acceptable by my standards. Of course, now, while this is the Fighting Commander by Hori, designed for games like Street Fighter and stuff like that, there is only one fighting game on the SNES Mini Classic, and that is Street Fighter 2 Turbo, as you know, which it works wonderfully with. But, of course, there are 30 plus other games on the system, so we thought we'd try them out with other games. So we tried like Super Ghosts and Goblins, we tried Contra 3, and we tried it with Super Punch-Out. So it works wonderfully. It actually makes it's just like the old days. The nostalgia level is huge here. So when playing Contra, you turn up the turbo and then you hold down the button to fire, rapid fire, and it gives your thumbs a little bit of break. Same with Super Ghosts and Goblins. It's super cool. Now, of course, this isn't going to really have a whole lot of functionality for all games, like Super Mario World, for example, unless you were using it for like the fireball mechanic. I'm sure you could find some functionality with that, but I don't think that's super necessary. But what's most impressive to me, going back to the beginning of our conversation, is the lag time, which is almost minimal compared with the stock controller. That's, of course, the most impressive thing, but what I love the most about this, and this is my personal opinion, something that really stinks about the NES Classic Mini and the SNES Classic Mini are the cable links for the stock controllers. Especially the most offensive is on the NES Classic, where it's literally like 30 centimeters long and you gotta like shove your face up into the TV to be able to play. And then they, of course, rectified that ever so slightly with the SNES Classic with a little bit of a longer cable. But still, in my situation, when I'm sitting back on the couch, the cable will yank the system off the shelf a little bit. It's very annoying. So having a wireless option that is completely, nearly, as far as I can tell, lag-free is the biggest selling point for this controller. Now, of course, when we're talking about selling points, this retails at $24.99. I got mine off of Amazon for $18 and some change. So I think the sales may fluctuate on there depending on the Prime deals. It is absolutely, if you have the SNES Classic and if the controller links are a bit of a problem for you, or you just want to annoy your friends a little bit while you're playing some Street Fighter, I do think it is worth the money. It's actually a really cool product from Hori. No complaints about it whatsoever. The retro nostalgic qualities are there for you if you're a collector, and the functionality is there if you're just purely playing for the fun of it. So anyways, guys, that is our review of the Hori Fighting Commander for the Super Nintendo Mini Classic. It's a niche product. It only goes with one certain thing. It's not going to work with any other things. But if you've got one, if you manage to find one, those are not as hard to find as the NES Classic Mini. Then it is a worthy purchase, and I think you should get it. If you have it and you want to discuss a little bit further, get me on Twitter. Boom! Right there. Otherwise, guys, we'll see you soon. We're going to get a whole lot more reviews planned coming out. We're getting back to the swing of things, if you know what I'm saying. And let me just say one thing. Because you watched this review and you thought, holy snap wieners. That was the best review I've ever seen of a product I'm never going to buy. Well, if you want us to do more reviews of more gaming related products, check us out on patreon.com/R24, because if you want to support the channel, even if it's just $1, it helps us fund to be able to get more stuff to review, because companies don't really send us products. They have before, but it's a very rare thing. So we buy all these out of pocket, so if you are in a position to do that, check us out on Patreon. We've got some things on there to reward you for such. Anyway, press that like, press that subscribe, press the bell so you're part of the notification squad. See you guys.